what it is.
Oh, what's up?
There's a bit of a lag,
Is
I
there?
think. Yeah, but it's all good.
Let
What
me
can we
let me
do?
cancel it.
Zazie?
Let
Oh
me
my
cancel
God,
it.
this child.
Let's start over. Let's start over.
Wait 1 second. Okay, cool. Wait. Okay, sure.
Let me just start the track again.
I'm gonna need to do the same.
Okay.
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 Cool. 3,
2, 1.
1. What it is?
What's up? You got your person in the cut. God damn. How are you?
I think I'm all right. Thanks. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm good. It's hard, guys. I don't know. Like
It's very hot.
It's always hard.
It is
but like,
very hot. It's gonna be 33 this side today.
Yo, so at least this side it's a bit cooler, just a little bit cooler. It's just like, you know, when there's like it's overcast basically. So
yes.
What do we say? We usually say kushisela. What is it on the inside? That's how we say it. That's the direct translation. So yeah,
Things
it is a bit
bad.
It's a bit
bad.
yeah, guys. Yeah, I don't know. Today feels a bit, I don't know. Feels a bit, I don't know. Yeah.
It's off.
Off. It's not giving what it's supposed to give, but it's all right. You know, at the end of the day, we are alive, we're good. And that's what matters. So today, what are we talking about today?
The value of identifying red flags, which I feel like we've been speaking about red flags since.
Yeah.
But
since the beginning.
One thing I've identified, I think even within myself, is that we do a lot of talk about red flags, but very little about, okay, now you've identified this red flag. Is it fight or flight? Which red flags deserve a fight, which deserve a flight? What do you do after identifying a red flag? Because more often than not, what our solution tends to be or has been is literally just ignoring and acting like we haven't seen it. Or waiting until things, or gaslighting ourselves into believing that it's not as bad as if I verbalized this. And then that leads to us constantly being on the back end of almost every single situation.
Or sometimes we do see them, but we don't want to sit with the discomfort of, okay, this is a red flag. What do I do now? And then sometimes, you know, we see them, we ignore them. Shit hits the fan. I'm trying to swear less, but shit is fine. Shit hits the fan. And we don't want to sit in the discomfort of knowing that we were wrong or acknowledging that perhaps here, you know, I might have seen something, but you know, I feel like, oh, you know,
you know what? Mm-hmm. I think like sometimes we still need to extend a bit of grace to ourselves and other people experiencing something, because it's so easy for me to be able to identify something and see it as a red flag when I'm seeing it in isolation of the context that another person is in. So for example, it's like there might be things that I let go or let happen in my relationship that I don't instantly be like, this is a red flag, this can't continue, because I know the nature of my relationship, right? Or I believe I know the nature of my relationship, and I believe that this thing is not happening in isolation, or it's not happening because the person's being malicious. All these other things that we convince ourselves, or we try assume to be rational. But you, Misho, looking out from the outside, you're like, nah, that is so wrong, and you have the privilege of being able to see it that way because you're not in it.
I mean, yeah, that's true, but I think there's the other side of it, and I speak from 15 years worth of red flags. That's a fact. I had to sit with the fact that there were 15 years worth of red flags that I saw,
that I ignored,
that sometimes I ignored, sometimes I addressed. And then sometimes I was like, you know, I'm going to extend grace. And that's okay. That one, I don't think I will sit down and be like, oh, oh, you shouldn't have done that. I'm really not going to like berate myself or anybody for extending grace. Obviously, like there are some situations where it's like, here you need to nip it in the bud, especially if you want to continue extending grace in the future. You don't want some of these things to continue happening, and then they happen, and then they happen, and you sort of don't do anything about it.
Because also sometimes you extend grace and someone doesn't see it as that.
Yeah.
They see it as, oh, I'm actually winning in my...
Yeah. I get away.
Plus.
Yeah. Oh no, she's putting, oh no, child. Oh no.
Come, baby.
Oh no. Zay, no, girl.
But yes, continue explaining.
But yeah, like I just think I definitely sort of have had to sit with that for a while, where I was like, you dial it back. I think maybe it was retrospect. Maybe in the moment, definitely didn't see it. I mean, it's 15 years. But, you're just thinking, maybe if I bring it up, it's fine. Or no, maybe this person is just going through something, like it's fine.
Yes. And that's what you always think.
And I think it really only came to like, a high, because obviously maybe it was the fact that we were sharing a space. I don't know what the switch was.
Yes.
I really don't know what the switch was, because, it's been so many years, and these are look, when we looked at it in retrospect, like I'm saying, it really was a thing of, this was nothing new. It just so happened that
this person had been moving like this.
Exactly been, but there were certain things that maybe we didn't see as such. Like when you've known someone for however long, I think, whether it's a long-term romantic relationship, whether it's a long-term friendship, when you've known someone for a while, there's some things where you're like, this person, they're just like this. They don't mean any harm. Or something as small as like, I'll make a very slight example. And I think it should be a lesson for all of us. We really should be wary of that, because I learned that actually it's not normal ever. Oversharing.
Yes.
And oversharing to strangers. Like, they meet someone and then first thing they do is that they overshare, like trauma dump on complete strangers. And that's essentially like what they contribute to the conversation. That is a red flag, guys. I'm here to tell you now, I'm here to evangelize. Is it evangelize?
Let's bring back having family secrets.
Please, I'm begging you. If your friend, your beloved, whatever it is, if they do that off the cuff, they just met some people and they are oversharing. They are telling their dark, deeper secrets. My mom did this. My dad is the... Hey, please beware.
Is this?
Just watch out. Just, note it. Note it. I'm not saying act on it. Note it. What you do in terms of how you act on it is really up to you. And obviously for a lot of people, it's like, oh, well, this is biased. I mean, yeah, sure, our experiences are biased. But when I really had to step back, and I mean, I had consulted my psychologist, I consulted, Google, I consulted YouTube, they're like, there's a page, actually, you guys should check it out if you want to. I just forgot his name. I'll link it somewhere.
I'll add it. Sure.
This guy, he's a self-aware narcissist who has been going to therapy for a very long time. I think Dino had posted his link, and then I saw it. And I went on his site and I was like, oh my word, had I known some of these things ahead of time, I don't know what I would have done. But, I don't know. Maybe I would have filed it in the back of my head. I don't know what it is. Obviously, it's tough.
That's pretty interesting
to see certain things, to see certain red flags, and depending on the environment that you're in, it's difficult to act on them, because it's like, my word, where do I start? What happens? What do I do? And so
and like even in conversations about being cautious about things, it's really so uncomfortable moving with the idea that somebody can have negative thoughts about you. Somebody in your life can have negative thoughts about you, and you need to protect yourself. It's especially from a friendship perspective, because I think from a relationship perspective, we're sort of being conditioned to think that, even though like we'll be like, no, okay, I'm taking this risk. I like this person. I'm committed to them in this way. Oh, this is how we're going to navigate our relationship. The idea that something they could always dog you is something that's we've always been sold.
Yeah.
Especially as heterosexual women. So it's like, it's just not a comfortable place to be in.
Yeah.
So we tend to run away from it, even when all the signs are there that this person doesn't have your best interests at heart. This person is actively exercising this and showing you that they don't feel like this about you.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's us thinking this could never happen to me, or thinking I know the value I bring to this relationship.
Yeah.
So this person does value me. I don't know. Like, is ignoring red flags only rooted in us being naive and oblivious, or is it also like an ego thing where we're convinced that there's no way, even though the picture on the page is clear and everybody can see it for what it is, we truly believe there's no way that somebody could do that to me?
I think it's that. It's a mixture of that, but also a mixture of so not just the ego in that somebody could do this to me, but the ego in that, you know, I'm not wrong also, you know, I'm not wrong about this person. Because it's life, you know, that's just how it is. We meet people, we have certain perceptions of them, and we think a certain way about them, and we sort of navigate life based off of that. And as time goes, or even from the jump, they start to sort of show that they might be different.
Yes.
And now you have to acknowledge that, oh my word, I have been wrong about someone. That is generally tough to say. It's a general.
It's not a nice.
It's not nice to have to say I have been wrong. Period. Not even about someone, about something. I have just been wrong. It's tough to acknowledge that. So, but the problem with that, with not wanting to sit in that, is that the traits that we can take on can be a bit, you know, because when are you wrong then? When are we wrong about characters? When are we wrong about certain things, guys? Like, we are wrong. We get to be wrong. And that's really okay. You know, we're not all knowing. We definitely aren't all seeing. And so I really think there is I don't want to say a positive of sorts, but a positive sometimes in really just going, you know,
I was wrong.
I was wrong. I am wrong about certain things. I actually don't know much. You become, like I had said last week, although it's in a different reference, a blank canvas. And, you know, what that brings forward, and I think that is the value in identifying red flags and identifying that, you know, maybe I don't know as much as I thought I did, is that you get to step back and you say, okay, what do I know?
And now that I know, how do I move from
exactly
how do I operate?
How do I operate moving forward, you know, and also with people that I come across in the future, how then do I vet them? Obviously these things are like very touch and go, you know, sometimes you find yourself like hyper away, like you're a little too like, oh my word.
And I feel like for some time after you get like a big scare or experience, it makes sense that the next thing would be you being hyper aware and hyper vigilant. And
if you weren't, I'd be worried. I'd be worried if you weren't.
Guys,
I won't lie to you. I mean, I remember saying that to my psychologist, and I was like, I don't know, like I'm feeling, as much as I'm in a state of openness, I am feeling very like hyper, like aware, hyper vigilant. Like I need to stay woke.
Almost paranoid. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if that goes against my being open. And she was like, girl, it's completely normal. In fact, I would have been worried about you. You know, I would have flagged certain things if you were
like, oh.
Yeah. If you were just like, oh, I'm just going to continue, you know, moving on like nothing had happened. Because when we don't identify red flags, whether it's during or after, especially after, what happens is that there is no lesson learned. You literally then end up moving in the spirit
Wasting
of, like kind of like nothing happened. And that's worrying. We should be worried. We should I think we should allow ourselves to be like hyper vigilant. That's okay, guys. When you're hurt, like let's say you hurt your foot, whatever, and the first time you have to like walk after doing that, naturally
don't
you're
just
gonna be a bit
down. Yeah.
Oh, you naturally you're gonna be a bit, hesitant. You're gonna be a bit like, oh my word, I don't know, am I making the right steps? And some steps are gonna hurt. And some steps are gonna be okay. And as you're going, you'll be like, okay, this doesn't hurt as much if I move a certain way. And so yeah, I think maybe that is the value. That is one of the values that I have found in identifying red flags, where it's like I get to have a lesson learned. I get to rewrite what I thought, I knew.
And this gets to make my future engagements a bit better.
Literally, it's also just like an ego death of sorts. Sometimes it goes. I think we need to have an episode on that, because I definitely think there is a lot to be said about that. But
the ego death.
Okay, listen, the ego death and the long goodbye. That is very. But we'll get there. We'll get there. But. Yeah, that is the value that I have identified. Tell me more.
I think I've had a similar situation with you. Obviously, the friendships weren't for long periods of time, but it's been interesting because, as you say, it's for you to get to that point of accepting that no, this person is actually mistreating me, and I've seen the signs and I've ignored them. For me, it's always been a matter of I was ignoring them because I was like, I didn't want to be that person that makes it seem like somebody's out to get me for no reason. Because for the longest time, we've been made to believe that that person who can identify that somebody is mistreating them and is very sure about the reason why is like a delusional person who you think so much of yourself, you why would people be out to get you? And then it's like, damn, I'm actually having these experiences where people really be out to get me. So like, am I going seaward or what's happening? And I think getting to the point of not being uncomfortable with that realization and getting to the point of like accepting that not everyone is going to like you, and not everyone is going to show you that they don't like you in the same way. So when you are having a familiar feeling, because when people mistreat us, there's a feeling that we get and like we know that feeling. So even when you're getting that familiar feeling from friends or from a loved one, it's important to acknowledge that feeling because it's going to manifest in very different ways, and you carry less shame when the shit hits the fan, because you have identified this feeling for the longest time, and you haven't internalized it and made it seem like this is something you are doing to yourself. Like it's easier to acknowledge that this is what this person has been doing to me, and I don't feel shame because I've been addressing it for as soon as I saw it, because when people hurt us, they literally do this thing of making us participants. And then you feel so much shame. And because you've been a participant for some time, it's very difficult to tell other people. It's difficult. We know how manipulation works. It's difficult to verbalize this thing because other people are going to be sitting there like, but now you could also see, now this. So it's like being able to do that fine balance.
No, I hear you.
Effie, she's licking the dog.
Oh no, she's licking the dog.
Yeah, that's what she does. I don't know where she learns these things.
She went from blinking as she was like touching it. She like that blink to licking him. Oh God,
she licks the dogs.
Oh wow.
She licks them.
But I think I almost lost my train of thought. I think I'm about to. Oh my word. Yes. Oh no. I think I lost my train of thought. Wow. Wow.
Pregnancy brain is contagious.
Listen.
It is contagious.
I blame you. She's not pregnant. She's just saying that, it's.
Yeah, no. I wouldn't tell y'all if I was pregnant, just so you know.
She made sure that we already have an example of that. But yeah, like, I mean, aside from, learning, And aside from, what was your point again? You see, I
was speaking about how people will make you feel like an active participant in their ill treatment of you. And then that is what makes it very difficult for us to, when we see red flags or when we see things escalating, it's difficult for us to pull back or to, because that person has tricked us into believing that we have been as active as they have been. I'm not saying we're like little kids that can't be accountable for the roles that we play in certain situations. Yes, we are doing all of this work so that we know better, so that we can do better. So when we are just only doing the knowing and very little of the doing, we are actively working against ourselves and our own progression.
And also just setting ourselves up for disappointment. Now you're like, oh damn, I knew better. Every single time, oh damn, I knew better. We don't want to find ourselves in those types of situations where you're like, wow, I knew better. Oh, I remembered my point. I think when you had mentioned that, when we experience certain hurts or whatever, we kind of like don't take it for what it is, as in this person was actively targeting you. It's like, it's just a universal thing. It's like it didn't happen to the universe.
Yes.
It didn't happen to other people. It happened to you. And so there is no such thing as, oh no, maybe you're being delusional. You think people are out to get you. That person was out to get you, beloved.
Literally.
That person was out to get you. And that is a fact, guys. It sucks.
Our generation.
Hey, Aisana.
Is no different to previous generations. People are doing things out here.
Let me tell you something. People are dynamic.
Mad.
People are moving in the wildest ways. Guys, if you experience a certain hurt, someone was out to get you. Yes, that may be how that person is. They are a narcissist, or they're like this, or they're like that, or they're just a general, like just a not so nice person. But you are the target of that thing.
Literally.
And
literally.
So
they've done a thing to you.
Literally. Sometimes, the lesson learned
I think
yeah? Mm-hmm.
No, yes, you can complete.
No, you go.
I was going to say, I think literally like the idea that why would anyone be out to get you has been popularized by people so that you are constantly gaslighting yourself with that belief, whereas people are literally out there out to get you. That's why it takes so long for someone to notice that this person is stalking me, because at first you're like, oh, I'm just being nice.
Yeah.
And then this person from the get-go, their entire interactions with you, they've known what they are trying to do. That's the wild thing about like interacting with other humans, is that it's such a gamble when we give each other the benefit of the doubt, because I know what I want from you.
Yeah.
Misho, when I'm interacting with you, even before I let you in on that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's such an unfair thing about the human experience, that there can be something that involves you so much, but you know so little every single time you engage with a person.
Dude,
that is scary to me. Not to like,
no, I'm
don't like that.
Like you really have to, you're leaving it up to chance. You're leaving it up to chance. And
every single interaction.
Yeah. I think, when you mentioned that, when I've been thinking about, I've previously found myself in situations where I had to go, sometimes the people around us go through things. And it kind of comes together with what we're saying. They go through things that are far larger than us. Even far bigger than themselves, right? But you find yourself on the receiving end of the not so great parts of transitioning, into whatever it is, or out of whatever it is. And I've been really thinking about that quite a lot, to say, at what point do you take it personally and what point don't you?
Do you say, I get you?
At what point do you say, this person is, because that is the value, I guess, it is part of identifying the value of figuring out the value in identifying these red flags, because some of these things could be red flags. Some of these things, I don't want to say they're not red, like green flags, not on green flags, obviously not, maybe amber, because it's like, it's not
but I guess the severity severity of a red flag depends on each person's situation. That's another important thing.
There's no one size fits all. Yeah.
Yes, having that like level of discernment where you can see that, okay, maybe for Misho, this thing based on your situation is like red flag, like this can lead to my death.
Yes.
But
oh my word,
apply it to me. An example I'll give you. Let's say you are in an apartment on your own. Somebody being persistent about coming over, like when you don't know them that much, that's like life or death for you.
Yeah.
Different situation to somebody who I have two flatmates. The one is a man, and that's a different level of danger. It's still like, this is not okay, but it's different. So we need to be able to, with everything, take everything and apply it to your own personal life.
Oh my word. Yeah.
Don't try do a one size fits all.
Oh my God.
I think that this would solve so many fights, so many issues that we have.
Actually.
Yes, the theory is there. Yes, we can identify something. Yes, I can learn from another's experience. I need to apply it to my life and weigh it properly, not weigh it with the eyes of somebody else's situation.
Yeah. And it just,
I think that's the value for me.
Yeah. No, you're actually so right. Like, we're not all the same, and I think that's in part, when we're extending grace, not only to ourselves, but to other people, extending grace and compassion, we really do have to say, for me, it might not be a life and death matter, but for that person, it is, and it's linked to certain things. And that is 100% valid, whether we like it or not. That is just, it is what it is. Oh my word, I fully agree with that.
And at the same time, it's still important to like acknowledge that there are universal red flags, but their way to also be different for different people.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So I don't know. I think we should leave it up to everybody listening to send us, while they're listening, let us know what do they think.
What value they have gotten.
About. Yes. And also how any helpful tools in terms of how to personalize a red flag and apply the correct amount of weight to your own personal experience.
What would you do? Give me two.
For me, I think once again, I'd have to look at the situation, look at the parties involved, look at the risk of escalation. If it's something that I feel like is an amber flag, what would happen, what would need to happen for this to get to the point where it is extremely dangerous for me. Looking at this person and how they have behaved, I think that this escalation is sure to come. And then what value, like what sits on the other side of me flight, what sits on the other side of me being in fight mode. So I think constantly having to give myself the space and the time to have the necessary conversations with myself about positive and negative things is what's really important for me in terms of identifying a red flag and the value that comes with that, and being able to action from a safe place.
Oh, wow.
On your side?
I want to simplify it to say, for as long as I'm hurt, and I'm not saying that I don't get hurt often, right? I do. But there are just certain hurts where it's like, this one, I cannot ignore it. There's a hurt where it's like, it's a hurt on my ego, which, is this okay or is it not? I'm not saying like we must take knocks to our egos all the time because it's the ego and it deserves a knocking. But I really do have to do that check and balance, those checks and balances where I'm like, okay, I'm hurt. I am hurt how? Am I, there's just, I don't know how to describe it. There's a hurt that,
like, where do I place this hurt?
Yes, where am I placing this hurt? So for me, I have to do that. But also in what you said, does it, when these things happen, what are my instant responses? Do I want to fight? Do I want to flight? Do I want to fawn? And why? I often get very, how like I'm instantly wary of myself if I want to flight, because that is my sort of natural response in any situation where maybe things don't really go my way. Before I even address it, the urge will be to flight. But then obviously this doesn't apply to everything, because there's some issues where it's like, oh, this happens. If I'm flighting, I'm flighting. This is not worth me coming here and being vulnerable and, discussing and all of that's not worth that. There are those sort of situations. So there is also that where I'm like, what is my response and why? Am I fighting? If I'm fighting, am I,
how am I fighting? What does this fighting look like?
Exactly. What am I fighting for? Even sometimes, I can find myself very like overly defensive. Is it me being overly defensive? What am I defending? Why am I defending it? So it really is like a very lengthy, it's definitely
that's actually a very important point.
Yeah.
It's an important point on being defensive, because a person can think that being defensive means I'm defending myself against you thinking I could do this, but it actually means I'm defending myself doing this in most times.
Yeah.
Because if you feel like it's an attack on you, then most times you just need to step back and be like, but why would somebody stick this on me?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know it.
100%. And also, when we talk about how sometimes red flags definitely are a personal thing, sometimes, I've had to sort of look back and say, this triggers a certain trauma, and the response is to flight or to fight, whichever one. But it's like, sometimes I've had to go, okay, but why are you making it about this trauma? Because it is a our thing. Because what happens is sometimes someone will come to you and say, you're doing this, and it is valid. You are doing it. But you take it back to, in my childhood when this happened, this validly so. But then
But right now,
the lesson
you are violating another
person. Exactly. The lesson gets lost. You are violating that person, whether or not it is, it dials you back to that place. And so there's also just that where it's like, am I acting on it? Yeah, I guess it goes back to the ego and defending myself. What am I acting on? What is it for the greater good of, in the situation? Obviously, at the end of the day, you want to look out for yourself, but what about the other person involved, especially in like these friendship type of situations, relationship type of situations? At the end of the day, it's not just us, we are also interacting with other people.
Existing with many people. And I think, I don't know, I feel like a lot of therapists are failing in making people realize that all this work we're doing here, essentially, you are not just fixing your mental health for yourself. You are still going to interact with people. You're not existing in a silo. So if you are only going to contextualize the issues that you are having based on what you believe is the ultimate best for you, so much is going to be lost. You are literally constantly still going to be bumping into people, having those conflicts, because the work is being done on a single dimension.
And sometimes your feelings aren't valid. Sometimes your feelings aren't valid, period.
Not all the time.
Not all the time, guys. It is what it is. It is what it is. Sucks, but, and you're right about the therapist sort of failing in that regard. We really, I don't know if it's a therapist thing or if it's just like a collective.
A less individualistic approach to therapy. It needs to be not just about pathologizing your problems in isolation of the environments that you find yourself in. We need more a holistic approach. I feel like
how does it affect the people around you? How is even therapy
literally if I'm feeling like
my
this,
counsel how is my counsel going to
to exist within this person's community? Literally. Anyway, that's a topic for another day.
Yes.
Please let us know what value you find in identifying red flags, how you address them in your own personal life, how you act on the knowledge that this flag exists. And don't forget to comment, like, subscribe.
Yes, and rate us on
keep
your
being those gals.
Yes, please, and rate us on your favorite streaming sites, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Apple Podcasts, whether it's Google, whatever it is. Please rate us. That takes us far. And rate us from an honest place. Obviously, I'm not trying to do the whole like support us, please, but like support us in honesty. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Enjoy the month of love. I don't know what we're gonna talk about in this raggedy ass month. I know I'm not looking forward to it.
I don't like her. But there's a lot of changes coming. There are a lot of changes coming.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
Looking forward to that. So yeah, guys. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.